Okay, so just to recap, to build up to this point, we've learned about declaring variables earlier in the day, and we also learned about using the if statement to declare a conditional block of code that we can run based on some conditions, right? And so now we want to visit the issue of variable scope, or in other words, in what context are the variables that you declare available from one code block to the next, to those code blocks that may be embedded deeper within a given code block, in the case of an if statement, as we'll see in a moment here, or to like kind of familial related code blocks where one method declares a variable. Is it available automatically in the other method in that same class? All right, so this will be easier to understand if we see a quick illustration. Let's do this. Here in the static void main, I'm going to do int a equals 1. And then I'm going to do something nonsensical. If a equals 1, of course it does, I know. Then I'm just going to do a console.writeLine a. And then down here we'll do a console.readLine as we normally do. All right. So will this variable a be accessible even though it's in a different code block from the code block in which that variable was declared? Can we see a from that was declared here inside of this second code block? Let's run it and find out. Okay, we can. It prints out the number 1, which we would expect. All right, so now let's take this example just a little bit further. I'm going to declare a second variable called b, and I'm going to set its value equal to 2. And so here we're going to console writeLine b. So we should see the number 2 in the console window, and we do. Great. All right, so now say I want to change up my application and I want to access the value of b outside of that if code block. So now let's run our application again, and we get an exception. And the problem is that b does not exist in the current context. So what are we really saying here? We see that while it's possible to access variable from inside of a code block, so here's our method code block and here is a if statement code block inside of it, the reverse isn't true. We can't declare a variable inside this code block and then expect to see it outside of that context of that code block. Okay, and so the same would be true then if we were to try and access this variable a outside of this code block. Let's say, for example, we'll create another method. I'm not really prepared to talk about methods just yet. We'll talk about those more in the coming days. But I think you can read what I'm about to do, right? I'm just going to create another method called test. All right, and then I'm going to do console. Well, let's just copy and paste it. Let's grab this here, and we'll set that to A, and then just so we don't see this error anymore, I'm going to just get rid of this. So now let's run the application, and no. And the issue here is that the name A does not exist in the current context. So because it was declared in this code block, it's not available, it's not in context of this other code block that's kind of at the same level. All right, so if the code block is embedded, we can still access it. But if it's not embedded, then it's outside of that scope. Now, later on in the week, we're going to see when we create fields of our class, again, day 3, day 4 topic matter. Then you're going to see that you can create variables that are accessible by all code blocks beneath the class code block or the class definition. Okay, so that is the topic of scope. Just making sure that you understand that code blocks define the scope of a given variable that you define. So if you get results from this point on that give you the error message, the name, whatever the variable name is, does not exist in the current context, then you're going to know that your variables aren't declared in such a way that the current code block can actually see them. All right? And that's all we're talking about here. All you need to do is just rethink where you're declaring your variables. You could, for example, if it makes sense, declare it out here. Don't set it, and then set it inside here. And then, let's just take this. This would work just fine. Okay, because we've declared B outside of the scope of just that code block. And now it's accessible here. Or at least it better be. I think we have a different error. Yeah. Okay, it's different. It wasn't assigned a value. We might even assign this equal to 0 to get rid of that problem. Okay, any rate, that kind of goes beyond what I wanted to talk about. So any rate, variable scope. Just be aware of where your variables are declared and how code blocks play into that. Okay, that's it. Thank you.